What's happening, y'all? This is Todd Wilson with another episode of Elevate Your Game. Today, we're bringing you former Alemany High School coach, head coach for 16 years, was at the school for 18 years, state champion, CIF champion, a friend of mine, now a financial professional, coming all the way from Atlanta, kind of, back to LA.
Yeah.
Bless us with the show, Tray Meeks.
My man.
My brother.
What's poppin'?
Man, nothing much, man. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. I've been watching this. I love what you're doing. Love what's happening here. And I'm excited to be on the show with you today. It's awesome.
Absolutely, man. We start every show with a wall of hoop movies.
Wall of hoop movies.
Your favorite movie, hoop movie, and why? What you got?
There's so many favorites. I can say, man, there's so many good ones. The most influential ones, I'm going to pick two, right?
What you got?
So initially, I would go with Coach Carter because that was fun. And being a coach and really seeing what they went through. A couple of my boys was on that. Shout out to C. Young for Chris Young out of the Drew League. That's my boy. He's in that. And
Chris is going to be on the show next week.
Oh, yeah. C. Young. Ghetto. What's up, boy? And Finding Forrester. Because it was a hoop movie, but it was also a movie about a guy basically getting out his comfort zone and moving to a space that was not just about hoops and learn how to be a young man. So I love that one too, amongst the other ones. But those are the two right now. Yeah. Coach Carter and Finding Forrester.
Did you start naming your plays after women after watching Coach Carter?
I didn't,
right,
but I did think about it. But it did make me want to be more creative with my play calling. That is true for sure. I didn't have no Delilahs or nothing like that.
No, okay, cool. So, man, you coached for a long time in the Mission League, one of the toughest leagues. Definitely when you were coaching, I would say the toughest league between you and Trinity during that time. Yeah. What was that experience like over those 18 years of, being put in as a head coach, pretty early in your career and surviving that long, and not only surviving, but thriving in that league?
Man, the Mission League, it's a dog-eat-dog world. You have to elevate your game. There's so many good coaches in that league over the years that it forced you to be the best version of yourself. It forced you to learn how to strategize and create and learn and grow and steal, right? Some of the stuff I stole from getting my butt kicked early on from us getting whooped and learning how to be a better coach. It stretches you beyond imagination. I couldn't think of a better league to coach in because the talent is undeniable, but the coaching is the strongest to me in the nation. I mean, you look back at the history and the success of the Mission League, I think almost every team in the Mission League has competed for a state championship. Almost every team. Yeah. If not, and won it, most of them. I think so
everybody has a state championship.
If not, it's really close. And I don't think any league can say that.
Yeah.
So having the opportunity to coach there was just unbelievable. When you look back on it, you're in it. You can't, outside looking in, you say like, wow, that was fun. So yeah.
What were the key components that kept you competitive in that league, right? Like what is it that, you're against the coaching, so what gives you that upper hand and what keeps you competitive?
I think what keeps you competitive is, first of all, you got to have guys that can play, right? I don't care. Any coach worth anything is about the players, right? If you don't have the players, it doesn't matter. So having the players that can compete, but then holding a standard and really creating a culture. That's the one thing I feel like we accomplished at Alemany is we had a culture of success. And even when we weren't winning, we still had a culture of success. And I think that creates consistent winning as a program over time. Absolutely. So I think that's the one thing we did that kept us attractive to other players to want to come, that we had a culture of winning.
Yeah, I think you had a specialty. What I always saw was you were the best developer of point guards in the Mission League in the Valley, in my opinion. You had one after the other that were college level players and ready to play and did things in college. From Max was probably your first point guard who did it, and then till DJ was the last right before you retired.
Brandon Whitney.
Oh, Brandon.
Brandon Whitney.
Brandon, exactly. See, so Brandon, and it was just a line
of them. Nico Ponce was the last one, kind of.
Right. So, just coming into their own. And What is it that you think is, if there was 4 or 5 things that were the key development pieces for a point guard, what were they for you in Alemany?
The leadership, providing the leadership and ability to take responsibility for your team. I used to have a saying like, you get the keys, and I gave all these guys the keys to the team at a certain point. Usually going into your junior year, you usually had the keys.
So wait, you had to wait to be the lead point guard?
Yeah.
Okay, because a
The
lot of
only
freshmen
one-
step in
the
now,
only one
they
that-
get the keys right
Yeah,
away.
right away. The only one that had him right away was Max. He had him early.
Yeah.
But he was ready for it. He was ready to play.
I
he
love
could
that
have played
story you tell me.
anywhere.
Tell me that Max story, man, of how you knew he was ready. You tell me this story when he was in a game.
Oh,
And yep.
yeah. Where were we at? We were in, what's the tournament? Torrey Pines. And we weren't playing in the top division. We were playing in the Gatorade division, the President's division. I don't know. It wasn't the top one at all. And we were down 1 late in the game. I think this is the story you're talking about. We were down 1 late in the game, and it was about, 18 seconds left. 18 seconds left. Max up top. I flattened everything, gave him the rock. Go do your thing, right? Because he's going to make a good play. And he attacks too early because we didn't want to give them another chance to score. So he goes at about 12 seconds and he attacks and he breaks the guy down. I said, no, too early. And he backs the ball out and within a dribble, like while attacking, he backed it out and waited about 4 or 5 seconds. And I think he made a layup to win the game. But the fact that he could hear, I had his ear at that early stage as a point guard, freshman.
And his ability to go and then stop, bring it back out. And
It
do
was,
again.
and I
That's
was like,
wild.
oh, he's ready. And that was before even league even happened. That was a preseason tournament. So yeah, that was special. I was like, yeah, he's gonna be all right.
Right.
Yeah. And
All
he
right,
started that lineage of he set the bar for point guards. And then he was the one that said, okay, now I'm gonna help develop the next one. He understood his role when he got to his senior year. It was Brandon Boyd.
Yeah.
Right? B. Boyd, who's playing overseas right now, making money, right? Yeah. And then it just kept going year after year. Every 2-3 years we we were blessed with some really good guards, man. Yeah. And I think that was
great kids, like great humans. That's what
absolutely.
I know every single one of them, and I wasn't even around when most of them were playing for you. But all great people and
great families.
Yes.
And even better families. And I think that's what the separating factor was. I still talk to some of these families, and every day we converse, not daily, but every once in a while we touch base and how you doing and things like that. So they came from great stock. So that was the blessing behind it.
Yeah. So you have leadership. What else was it, do you think?
Accountability. I used to anytime there was a breakdown in communication on the court, it's the point guard's fault. If there was a play that wasn't ran right, it's the PG's fault. Like, what are you doing? Right? Why isn't your big man in the space he's supposed to be? So being able to be accountable for that and taking ownership on the court, because the PG is the extension of the coach. If they're not directing traffic and taking ownership and being in a space where they can help people grow, they're not a good point guard, in my opinion. So the leadership, the accountability, and then you got to have some toughness.
Yeah. I have a question about accountability before we get to toughness.
Okay.
I think it's important for other coaches to hear, what does accountability look like? Does it look like sitting on the bench? Does it look like, what does that consequence for not being accountable look like for a point guard that you're grooming?
It really depends. It really depends. It's really taking full ownership of everything, taking full responsibility. I'm responsible. So in my opinion, when you're held accountable, it could be on the court. Like, I could hold someone accountable on the court, but also they could be benched too, right? They could be like, man, you're not ready to play today. Have a seat and let someone else. Sometime that, and you have to know your player. Right. Like, if I knew that sitting them on the bench would burn their butt, yeah, sit down. But sometimes they needed to play.
Yeah.
And learn from that mistake and maybe have 2 turnovers. Now, if they had 3, they probably sat down. But right. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. But I used to always tell them they can make it up on defense too. So I held them accountable that way. So you made a mistake, make it up on D. Because that allows them, because if you turn the ball over and get a steal, it's a wash. Right? Now, late in the game, it's a little different. But, first quarter, second quarter, it's a little different. So holding them accountable was, and then because they were held accountable, guess what they did? They in turn held others accountable. And if they had the leadership respect from their teammates, it made the engine go. So that's what we had. We just had some great people to do it.
Yeah. All right. What about toughness? You were saying toughness is the next one.
Yeah, and then that comes in preseason conditioning.
Yeah.
Right. They had to be one of the toughest. They had to be. We used to run these things. I got them from. Shout out to Bill Bedgood, because Bill Bedgood is the one that gave me the opportunity at Alemany, and he taught me a bunch of things. But one of the conditioning drills we had called Striders, and any Alemany guy that ran them, they hated them. It's a sprint, back pedal, sprint, back pedal, sprint, sideline of the football field. Right? So sideline
this
to
is not
sideline.
even on the basketball court.
Yeah, it's on the football field. So it's sideline to sideline, right? And you hated them, but you saw what people were made of. And the time, whatever the time slot was, it got faster and faster. And the only break they got was the time from one coach walk from one sideline to the other, because we had to make sure they run through the tape and things of that nature. But they were allowed, if they broke a certain time, they could get shade 1 off, shade 2 off.
Okay.
And the number of striders increased as we got closer to season. So say we started at 10. By the time we end the season, we're at 21, 22.
Jeez.
And the toughness, and not just the toughness of you finishing, but if you see somebody lagging, because if everyone didn't finish the time, then it didn't count. Right?
Man.
So you wanted to
Accountability
see
again.
the leadership
Yep.
and the mental toughness. I remember one time, I remember a guy was struggling through striders, and one of our point guards, Brandon Davis, he was such a stud when it came to conditioning. He was a stud. And I remember him standing in the Superman pose while another guy was leaning on. He just lean on me.
Wow.
And the dude was about to throw up, just lean on me. And I was like, this dude, he
He's
has
a
the mental
monster.
toughness, right? So
Yeah.
having that as a point guard was key. Yeah.
Man, that's awesome, man. I think the reflection of their leadership is a reflection of your leadership. And I know me and you discuss all the time just personal development.
Yeah.
And that piece. What were you doing for personal development in your coaching days that you think your cup was over full, because you're pouring into these young men and you can see it player after player, not just your point guards but all your players had a certain resilience to them and discipline and just great character. What was it that you were doing for yourself then that helped pour over into those kids?
And I was always trying to learn. I was going to the clinics every summer. I used to be in Vegas every summer for coaching, right? And then I used to question everyone that was successful. So when we were I used to go to summer leagues or try to get in these certain leagues and certain tournaments just to ask questions for the coaches. I remember trying to get in the Fairfax tournament before we were even known, and Katani was like, we'll put you on the waiting list. We don't really know who you are. But once we got in, I'm asking him questions. And he was always open to answering any questions. He'd sit down with me, Trey, do this. This is what we're doing. Same thing with Ed Azam. Same thing with Coach Kleck at Etowanda. Like all those guys that were winning since I had been in high school.
Right.
I was like, why are you still winning? What are you doing? Because it's not just the players. You have a formula for success. So I was always asking questions on Kleck. Kleck from Etowanda was one of my main mentors from the high school standpoint, and he's one of the best to do it. Defensively, I don't know if there's a better coach, in my opinion. Yeah. And but the Ed Azams, Gary McKnight's going to sit down in them and talk to them, even if it was a brief moment. Like, how do you do this? How do you handle this? How do you handle a good team? I remember Coach Azam was like, dude, if you only have one gym this year, you should take them outside. I was like, outside? He was like, yeah, my kids go outside. I was like, really?
Wow.
Took my kids outside, So those, just having that constant conversation with people that are ahead of you and more successful than you, and figuring out how do they create this continued success over time was key for me. So I just asked a bunch of questions. I think we need to continue to ask questions. It
Right.
helps.
Yeah. Is there a direct mentor or mentors that you had through your career that you can like really highlight who had an impact? Kleck, it sounds like, was one of them.
Absolutely.
Anyone else?
He was Kleckner was one of the most influential coaches. I mean, I remember when I first got the job, I called him and I was like, I got a job. What do I do? He was like, A, B, C, and D. Like, start here, right? And he helped me the entire way. Even I remember when we were on that state championship run before it even happened, he called me during the season. He probably didn't remember this, but he called me during the season and said, you have a chance. Don't let up. Don't get complacent. They're good because you don't know when the next time you'll have this opportunity. So don't let up. And I was like, got it. And I ran a hard practice that day because he gave me that. And then from the college standpoint, I had a great relationship because we used to go to the same church. And that was Bobby Braswell at Northridge. He took me under his wing and gave me some jewels that made me a better coach and saw things from a different level. He was really, really influential in that space. So those two coaches, as I was coaching in high school, and then a third one was Bill Oates. I don't know if a lot of people know who Bill Oates is, but Bill Oates used to coach at Masters College. He's a very, very influential coach in my life, and he passed away a few years ago. But he was a gem in my space because he worked at the campus just as a retired guy, just kind of helping out. But he used to come sit in my practices, take notes, and we used to sit afterwards and talk to me about his time with John Wooden and just stuff that you don't get. He coached athletes in action, so he had a lot of influential relationships in this space, and he was a believer. So like myself, so we had that side of the coaching staff too. Same with Braswell, right? So having those three guys helped me grow in different stages of my career as a coach was, I couldn't ask for anything better. So those three guys, there was a bunch of them, but those three had a direct impact.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I think it's important to see just as you were being a great coach, it was because the people you surrounded yourself with, and you continued to learn, and that's the impact that you had on your players, right? And because you could see it, they mentored each other, right?
Yes.
You had Max, and like you said, then you had Boyd, then you had whoever came after that, and they continued to take care of one another as that lineage continued, and it still continues a little bit, man. Like Jace McDonald's over there, like they it's like you can still see it, like that solid point guard.
So many good guys, so many. It's crazy. When you look back from the Shaqs to
and they're undersized point guards at that, and it's like you got like, okay, hey, I'm under 6 foot. How do I get Division I? Go talk to Tray Meeks. Like that's my thing. Is like, so what is there something extra that they need to do, being under 6 foot, wanting to go Division I? Because there's a lot of guys like that, I think. And what made those guys so special?
They had some God-given talent first and foremost. I didn't give them that. They were blessed with that. But I really think the toughness, because as a small guy, you got to be tougher than most, right? Because some things are harder for you. It's things on the court you can't see. You had to work a little bit harder to get, especially defensively. Because you were smaller. That was where people would, especially from a Division I standpoint, you could be looked at as a liability because you're so small. Bigger guards can post you up, things of that nature. But when you had a toughness, it doesn't matter who you're playing against. I'm the best, right? So you can't get by me, just like you couldn't guard me. Like our point guards knew the first guy can't guard you. It's absolutely not. Case in point, Brandon Whitney, he used to tell him, you're the best guard in the state, 10th grader. Can't nobody stay in front of you. And he took that ownership.
And he played off that opposite pivot foot, man. That kid, I don't know what
so
he
really
got
just
issues, man.
in getting that in their mind, like you're the best of the best. So really, and I used to jump on him too. Don't get me wrong. I was tough to play for because I was on it.
You can see it on the sidelines. I remember.
So I was tough, but I also felt like I gave them the autonomy to be the best version of themselves. But having the toughness in mind, knowing you're not a liability defensively, was really, really a help, right? So
how did you keep, you go through ups and downs in your coaching career, right? You win some seasons, you lose some seasons over 18 years. I'm sure you had, in the Mission League, you had a lot. At one point in time, you were 33-2 in the Mission League?
Yeah, for like
3 years, man.
Yeah,
crazy.
It's crazy.
So what helped maintain during that time, right? And then is it the same thing that maintained you during the time where you guys didn't win?
Defensively. Literally, that's the thing that kept us afloat, because you're always in games if you can play, if you can defend. So in the times when we didn't have a big guy, right? We were like, I think Ernie Sears was like our 4. He played the 4 at 6'3". He was bouncy as all get out, but he played like the 4. Our championship year, I think Bear Henderson was like the center or something like that in our starting five, right? And he was 6'4", 6'5". But as long as you maintain a level of toughness defensively, it'll get you through the lean years when you were struggling offensively.
Yeah.
So I think that was a difference. And then you get a team that can score and play defense because that's what the culture brings. That was the difference. Like we could guard people. So yeah.
What about culturally? I think the landscape has definitely changed, even a little bit since you've retired, but definitely what's happening towards more the end of your career is just, players and families' expectations not being met and bouncing around, transferring in and out, and that stuff. What kept your culture consistent through all those years?
Great parents believing in what we do. Really, like trusting in the process.
How do you get them to do that?
I think by being consistent. They knew, they can go ask anyone, I feel, about how we coached, how my staff and I coached, and you'd get the same consistent information. You get the same output. Like, they go coach you hard. They're not going to be your friend, right? But they're going to be honest with you and upfront. And I think once you develop that level of consistency, I always had a meeting in the beginning of the year, went over the 10 Commandments for parents, right? And
what's those 10 Commandments? You gonna bless us today?
Oh man, I don't even remember all
of
them.
Give me.
I can tell you one or two of them was I shouldn't be worried about you during the game, right? Don't compare yourself with don't compare your son with other players on the team. Don't talk about basketball on the way home after a game.
Preach.
Right? A couple of those things were there, and I got those from John Wooten, one of his old books, The Damathic Coach. I was like, I need these. So I just coined it the 10 Commandments for parents. He just called them, I think, 10 Rules or something like that.
Okay.
Just talking about development, personal development, reading those books, and like, how can I make my program better? But having that information and giving the parents the honest truth and them and then living it out, right? Not saying one thing and doing another. I think there's a respect issue for that. And I think the parents knew that we were developing young men. Reggie was talking about that too. Reggie's my guy. We've been friends for a while and just talking about caring about kids. And I knew we had a space, and I knew that God put me there to help develop young men, as he was saying the other day. And that was so true. And that rings. People can see a phony a mile away. So really going after it and really caring about the individual, not just the player. I think that was a difference in our program, and people saw that. And we didn't. I made a point to not, quote unquote, take another transfer if I had a guy that was good.
Right.
I had a D1 guy that wanted to come in late, and I was like, you can't come.
Right.
This guy has the keys. He's ready to go. And
so a sense of loyalty to the people who put
100%.
the effort and development in. And
100%. They're working their tail off. I'm not going to bring a guy in over you, and you've been waiting for this time. So some people said I was crazy. It worked out. I can give you a couple of instances where a guy, I didn't bring another guy in, and that guy killed it for 2 years.
Yeah.
There were a couple of guys that I could really say, yeah, man, it was a difference. I'm glad I didn't go there and let you develop into the person you wanted to be. So at the end of the day, though, it's really not recruiting, because I think the program recruits itself.
Yeah.
Right. So I didn't ever go. I personally, and people, I had a reporter that just would not believe that we didn't go recruit guys, because I was a private school. I was like, dude, the program will recruit itself.
Yes.
And I remember a college coach, the first year we were playing in the tournament, and we had just lost to a team that we shouldn't have lost to, my very first coaching game. And he was like, you're going to have to recruit. I was like, the program is going to recruit itself. And he laughed. He was like, ha, okay. And that guy was not coaching a few years later, and we went on to coach for a long time as a staff. Mm-hmm. But it was a difference maker. And then the other things, we had such great coaches on our staff over the years.
Yeah.
A couple of guys that are coaching, that have head coaching jobs.
So who's under your coaching tree now that's currently coaching?
Tommy Blunt was one of my guys. Mm-hmm. He was there for a year. Yeah. Mike Delaney, obviously. Brendan Wheeler, who's at Cal Poly. Mm-hmm. Logan Hartley, he's at Village Christian. Who else was under Mike? Who was under? Oh, Dogum. So Dogum Asphalt, who's at Cleveland. He was my last guy. He's doing a great job over there at Cleveland. And so a bunch of different coaches. And they've gotten some tutelage from other places around the years.
Right.
Wheeler was at Moore Park and things of that nature. Logan's been with Steve at Campbell Hall. He's been at Calabasas with Pilars. So they all got other things, but they were together with me. And to have those coaching staff that we had over the years, Trent Morgan, people don't know Trent, but Trent was the backbone of everything. He was there every step of the way with me. And Gil Dominguez, over the years, I just had lunch with him. Gil is a savant.
He's at JV coach at Heritage.
That's right. I just had lunch with him the other day, and he told me, and he's a savant. Like, people don't know,
different mind, man.
Yeah, people don't understand the way he used to break down teams in film and the technology. And he was the first person that showed me how to apply these analytics to basketball. And his mind, and having an older guy like him and Trent on the staff were just. Marshall, who's a assistant coach at Fullerton, who just won a state championship for JUCO, like all these really, really good guys. And if I'm missing anyone, my bad.
We just shouting a couple out.
Y'all
doing your thing. Y'all doing your thing.
Yeah. So it's a bunch of good coaches that really helped develop guys and helped them get to the next level. And that was because I couldn't do it all. They were better at training like you are. They were, go ahead, do that. Ernie Gregoire, how can I miss Coach G? Coach G was a backbone. Now he's a track and field guru. So now he's the head coach at Claremont for track, but he was the guy that made sure guys were conditioned. And not only made sure guys were conditioned, but made sure they were held accountable. He took that firefighter background and implemented that. Coach G did an excellent job in making sure our culture stayed intact.
Yes.
Right? So having those guys in place from Kingston and a whole bunch of different guys that made a difference in our success. I couldn't have did any of it without any of them. So
no, I think, man, what I keep hearing is this culture, right? And I don't think I think we've seen it when it was happening, but really recognizing it now that you stepped away from coaching and a coach who's starting out to build their own culture versus what you had is like, oh man, there was a culture here. And thank you for sharing all that. I think this is important. Like, when coaches step in, they think it's about recruiting players. They think it's about the plays they run. They think it's about all these other things when it's actually about the culture that you set and how you're developing young men and women outside of basketball itself, right? The X's and O's, like you said, you have people to tell you kind of, or you can just go copy it and copy and paste. And so that culture piece is so important. Yeah,
I think one of the most underrated aspects of being successful is your locker room. If that and a lot of times when you bring guys in from other places that don't understand the culture, your locker room is not intact. And there was a year in coaching that we struggled. We sucked, and we had a very talented team. And that's when I really learned, like, oh, it's the locker room. That's what stinks. The attitude, that's what stinks. So it doesn't matter about the talent level if your locker room isn't intact. And I realized that that's part of our culture. So I had to make sure the locker room was intact. And when it wasn't, we didn't do well. So that was key.
So you get state championship years, some amazing years. You had some league MVPs, multiple kids, 10 plus Division I, play, even going in different sports, whatever it was, just having a lot of success with the players in the program. And now towards the last couple years of your career and leading into retirement, what was happening then and what made you make that ultimate decision to stop coaching?
Well, it was a God thing for me, personally. It was time to move on for me. I felt like I had given so much to the game and the school and the kids and the parents that I needed to give more to my family. I have a about to be 14-year-old son, and I felt like he was in a space where he needed more time with me. And that was really one of the main factors is like, man, he's growing up and he's growing up fast and I can't miss this stuff. So spending more time with him. I still work hard in my financial business, but I have more time freedom than I did as coaching.
Right.
Especially when you're in the thralls of season. I mean, you go 14, 16-hour days and people are like, well, coaching practice ends at 5:30. Yeah, but scout starts at 7.
Right.
And then film breakdown is after that. Then practice plans are after that. So if you're doing your job, you're up 10:30, 11, 12 o'clock to get ready for tomorrow.
Right.
So I wanted to have more time there. So that pushed me. And then I felt like it was time. I felt like the culture had changed just in the landscape of basketball for me. It was tough for me to coach guys that thought you could just show up and get the result. That's not how it works. We believed in old-fashioned hard work. It's not magic. So I think that landscape kind of changed. I think there's still some kids that still give you that, but it wasn't the same amount of people that understood that.
No, because these parents believe they can purchase or they can power their way to success. Because of what they've done personally. It's very interesting, this dichotomy you see with parents. Is like they're successful in their life, right? We deal in the Valley where there's a lot of private school parents who are successful in their business so they can pay for private school. And so you see that, oh, I'm successful, but they forgot what got them there. The hard work, the effort, the hours they put in, and they think they can pay a trainer and put them in a private school and their kid to be set by doing this. Oh, I'm putting my resource into them being good instead of teaching their kid the work ethic that got them to where they're at and it's successful, right? And so it's like, yo, are you going to teach them what you did to get that success? Or are you just going to give them success? And I think that's where the confusion happens. And old school coaches, you still see him. Doug Mitchell, like, nah, you gonna work. Andre, you gonna work. Like, even though,
care less.
No, we just gonna. This is
one of
what
the
it's
best.
about. This is what, this is basketball. I don't care about your offers, what school or college you going to. Nah, we gonna make you successful here, grind here, so you have some adversity and know how to overcome that, so you can get to that next level where you want to be. That's your goal. And so I think that's what people struggle with.
John, we both, we both talk. You and I, we're both John Maxwell fans, huge John Maxwell fans. You remind me of something. Is like people want what I have, but they don't want to do what I did. So he talks about do the did, right? If you don't do the did, if you didn't do what I did, you can't expect to have the things that I have now. So I think that do the did is kind of, it's considered old school, but it's the formula of success. Like you gotta work. It just can't happen. Like you said with Doug, if you don't play defense and you don't play hard, good luck playing for him. I've coached against him.
Right. every play, every possession.
You better play hard.
That's it.
Right. So it's you got to do the did, and I don't think guys are really understanding the do the did concept. So
no, I think that's important. I want to go back to what you said, is that as you stepped away, you considered your family. I don't know if people know this. Meeks has a big family now. Okay, so he's blessed with a
most
big
people
family.
know.
He has a big family, an amazing wife who is fully invested into being your partner with whatever you have done, and still pursuing her goals and dreams. Which is dope. Christy, shout out
to Christy Joy.
Yeah, Christy Joy. And how did you balance that? Having in the thick of your career, you had three. We started with one, and then 3, 4, or 5 kids during your career. How did you balance that? What is your advice for young coaches with young kids, right? That's why I don't coach right now, because I got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I'm like, man, I just want to spend time with them. How do you sacrifice is the question.
I think balance is overrated. I do. I think there's seasons, most seasons you're unbalanced. So understand, in seasons in life, not basketball seasons in life, you're unbalanced. So there were times where Christy held it down, and we had that conversation. I think constant personal communication, we talk about that in our business, CPC, having that constant personal communication with your spouse and with your coaching staff, and having them understand where you are in life. And so my wife understood where we were, and she knew it was a grind and what we were shooting for. And so she held it down with the kids, with Braden, with Riley, with Mackenzie, because those were the first 3. The other 2 came later in coaching. Like Tyus came later. He was there too, and Maximus, he has no clue, right? He's 2. But her understanding that I was going to grind it out, and her unwavering support the entire way. And then when I transitioned out, it shifted, right? And then the coaching staff understanding. Like, I used to work guys out at 6 in the morning, but when I became a father, and I'm like, can you guys take it? But have some great guys that'll come in and work guys out. So using my resources too was key. So the support of my wife and then the resources and support from my coaching staff. A lot of them were like, dude, we got it. Because they were in different spaces. Some of them were single, so they could do the 6 a.m. workouts because they can get up. So having that was key.
Yeah. Would you tell a coach who is not willing to be unbalanced to not coach then in Southern California high school basketball?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think
I don't think you can do both. I don't think it can be a 50-50.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, no, I can't do this because there's going to be a time where you go 80-20. And I knew my time was from November to March.
Yeah.
We knew it was unbalanced from November to March. September to October, where we have conditioning, things like that, I can get home a little earlier, things of that nature. But once we got rocking, because I'd literally have to go from practice to a scout, right? Practice to a game, or come home and spend a little time, and then I'm back on film. I was on sports code and things like that, breaking down film. So it is definitely a time which you'll be unbalanced, and it's going to be the majority of the time, especially in SoCal,
right?
Because guys are good,
right?
And coaches are great,
right?
You come unprepared, and you will be exposed.
You'll get smacked.
You'll be exposed.
No matter how much talent you got, none of that. I think it's very important for people to understand the expectation of what high school basketball coaching is, especially in a place where it's very serious.
Yeah.
You know, these families, parents that have an expectation for their kids to go to college, whatever level it is, from playing basketball. Especially in the Mission League, Gold Coast, Olympic League. These kids, this is what they do. This is what they want. And so I think it's important for coaches, hey, if you can't do that, then be an assistant. If you can't make that commitment, be an assistant and find your way within coaching, because I think there's some guys out there who aren't fully committed to the job. And I think it's a detriment to your family because you're spending time. If you want to spend time, want to go spend time with them. And it's a detriment to those kids that you're coaching.
Correct. And I think and that's one of the reasons why I moved to the financial sector, because I knew that coaching, it's a thankless job, right? Man. And it doesn't give you the financial stability that you need as well for your family. So a lot of times the assistant coaches wanted to be there more, but they couldn't afford to.
Yeah.
So that's why I think financial literacy is key, because you got to be able to put some money away and save some things and create some consistent income to be able to do what you love. So that was sometimes hard too, is finding great. That's why I was so thankful for the assistant coaches I had, because it's tough finding a guy when you can only give him a stipend. Right. And not a salary.
Yes.
And then expect him to give you salary work ethic.
Yeah.
Salary responsibility with a coach and stipend. It's tough. It has to be a labor. It's a labor of love for real. So that's why I'm so appreciative of it.
Yeah, no, teaching, coaching, and especially in the school and academic setting on these lower levels before you go to higher education. College is, like you said, it's thankless and it's a commitment. And so transitioning, so you have a history into finance, and that's what you decided to retire from basketball and move into. What were the key things that you saw that you could connect from coaching into your new career?
Oh man, I can still compete. You can compete. You can be a business athlete, right? So you can still compete in business. So I still compete in business because I want to be the best. Like I've always wanted to be the best in whatever I focused on. So I still have that. The as an entrepreneur, the time spent is key. Talking about unbalanced.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship, you're unbalanced, right? Even on the good side and the bad side. So early on, you may be unbalanced with giving a lot of time here and then once you're successful, you're not giving a lot of time. So it's still unbalanced. So taking that into it, the work ethic that it needs to get the job done, service.
Yeah.
Service. I'm still serving as a coach, serve as a teacher. You can't do that without a high level of service embedded in you, right? Same thing here. So I'm taking that service aspect, and now we're just financially coaching people, right? And teaching them to be the best of the best with their money and how to save long term and build wealth and things of that nature. So I took that same.
You got some financial point guards that you developed.
Exactly. Yeah, financial point guards that's leading their families. Yeah. Exactly, to success and creating generational wealth. And same thing like handing back, like we talked about, one guard handing it to the next.
Yeah. Now
it's just going from parent to kid and kid to grandkid, things of that nature. So taking that into account and then taking it serious, right? Really understanding that these people, now basketball is different because it's a game. This financial game is not necessarily a game. You're having an impact on people's lives. So making sure you give them the best of you. Yeah. So it's very similar. It's very similar. It's just a different sport, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I think that's important, and to see when the ball stops bouncing. I talk to my kids about this a lot, right? You probably seen kids who were supposed to be that dude freshman, sophomore year and don't even play basketball anymore, or then you see them go through their pro career and then retire and do something else. And I think it's important for all of us. This ball is going to stop bouncing. You could coach forever.
Yeah.
You could coach till you retire. I think there's always a time of transition going to happen, and so as the ball stopped bouncing for you in the coaching realm, you ventured off into that finance world, and you're serving people and you're developing people still. And I think it's always important to see what's ahead, right?
Yes.
And for the coaches, and some of you coaches, you can do this at the same time.
Yeah,
and you can
absolutely.
do this as a side hustle to your coaching, and finding that other thing that can help provide for your family or just build you up, right?
Yeah.
Like I think the best thing you have with the position you have in entrepreneurship, or that we have, is that, man, we're always personally developing. Like it's a huge focus on what can I do better with my leadership, my time management, my communication skills, and where sometimes in normal jobs, a 9-to-5 office job, you're so focused on task and getting things completed, you don't have time to invest into yourself inside of your workday.
Yes.
And I think, how do you implement those things into your workday? Like, how do you practice the self-development that you're learning?
Man, I pre-plan everything. Like, my day is pre-planned. I don't go to bed without pre-planning my day. And if I don't have that self-development within it, I have a checklist that I have. I read a book, I exercise, I read my business plan, I make calls, I talk to clients. I have that checklist every day. And if I'm not checking something off, by the end of the day, I was like, oh, I didn't get that done. I didn't do my push-ups. I didn't read at least 10 pages. So I'm always checking myself. It's accountability for myself.
Yep.
I have daily accountability that I go through, and I have a mentor in the business, just like I had mentors in basketball that I talked about. I have business mentors, a few of them that I can call on whenever I need some stretching. Right? Yes. I need to be in a better space, or I'm not where I need to be. So I'm using that as well. Yeah. So that's the thing. It makes a big difference when you're pre-planning your day and you're making sure that and even athletes. Like I think I saw a kid, I can't think of the kid's name on this podcast, and he was running and working out from 6 to 7:30 every day prior to I can't think of the kid's name you had on here. And he was, I go run, I go do my thing.
Braden Burries.
Yeah. Before. That's on his daily schedule.
Yep.
He has that pre-planned. He probably doesn't think that his pre-planned is just something that's natural now, but he was pre-planning his day and making sure I got this in before I did anything else.
Yep.
Right? So having those habits consistently can make a difference.
And he's killing right now in Peach Jam. I had 20 yesterday.
Not a coincidence.
Yeah, it's not because the daily work that he puts in.
Yeah,
no, absolutely. I love how you tie that together, and people just need to see that the sport, right? The sport of basketball and what you have to put into it to get the results you want is the same thing you have to do in every part of your life to be successful in it and taking that. So, all right. So this is a segment of our show. It's called My Rushmore. Okay, you get to put your 4 people, your top 4 of My Rushmore, and the topic we're going to do today is your top 4 Mission League players during your 16 head coaching years at Alemany. Yeah, we gonna do it.
Top 4 Mission League players. I gotta add a caveat because we gotta go not even top 4. At Alemany, just 4 guys. Well, I guess we got to start for Mission League. It got to be MVPs, so that kind of levels the playing field. If you didn't win MVP, you can't be in the top 4. I don't think anyone. Yes, so I'll start.
So you want to do top 4 Alemany?
I guess the ones that won MVP, right? So the ones that run MVP in the Mission League from Alemany would have to be Max and Marquise, right? Because they got this thing off to the stratosphere that it ended up getting to, the height, that apex of high school basketball. Shaq won MVP 2 years in a row. Shaquille Dawkins won MVP 2 years in a row. You got DJ. Oh, man, I think I don't even want to stop. Like, I got so many.
You got to pick 4.
Gosh, so I guess that's not necessarily top 4, but those the 4 MVPs.
Okay, the 4 MVPs.
I don't think anyone. I had a bunch of first teamers, but I think those are the 4 MVPs that we had. They were just They were stellar.
Yeah.
They were stellar. Anyway, so
They gave a lot of people
and
problems.
then outside of Alemany,
All right,
four?
so your other four then, no Alemany players on your top 4 Mission League of all time. You can add an Alemany player if you want to. This is top 4 Mission League period, and you can include Alemany players. You already did your 4. You gave the graces to your boys. So.
Man, Marquise and Max were just so they were stellar. But so was Jericho on that team. So it was so many good players. Golly, like Jericho led the league and led the state in steals that year. Like, all right.
This is over 16 years.
Oh,
16
man,
years though.
You got London Parantes out of Crespi. He was so good.
Yeah, he was.
I remember he not only was he a talent, he was heady. I remember a game, first quarter, because we were always rivals for like our games were like for a few years it decided the Mission League championship. Mm-hmm. And I remember a game where I had one of our best defenders on him, and he got him his second foul in the first quarter on a shot fake, and we'll stay on the ground because he always goes there. Boom, called him foul. He said, "That's 2, coach. Got to sit him down." But high school players usually don't think about that he was that heady, like, oh, you got to come out.
Yeah.
Like, bring the next one, because I got him sat down. And so he was and he was a big shot maker. Like, London got to be, he was one of my favorites.
All right, so we got London.
We got London. Later on,
London Parantes, who went on to go to the NBA and he plays overseas or in the G League right now. So
he was
so NBA player.
London was
That's
good.
fair.
There were so many good ones. Parker Jackson Cartwright out of Loyola was so good.
Yeah, he was.
Oh man, I haven't coached against a guy who had such great vision, and he wasn't big, he wasn't strong. We used to try to push him around because he was slight. He was light in the pants, that they would say. So we used to try to push him around. Yeah, man. And shout out to Jamal Adams for he used to coach those guys up and have them ready. PGC used to come off something, and I remember I was loading one side because he had tendencies to do something else, and he countered it, and I said, dude, you're not even supposed to see that pass. You're not even not only make it and get into a guy's shot pocket so he can release it, but to be able to see it. His vision was just unreal. So PGC has to be. I'm naming all point guards because
but what the Mission League do though too. But okay,
so many other bigs though. Like you got Alex Stevenson. You had you had the bigs. You had Big Welsh. I don't know, man. I don't know if I can get to a top 4.
London, we're at 2. We got London and
you got
Parker.
I don't know how you can leave people out.
You about to?
Shoot. Man, you put me on the spot. Johnny Juzang was so good. Yeah. Out of Harvard Westlake in my later years, he was the big guard that can put it on the deck, score, get to his spots. He'd kill you from the elbow. He got to that elbow, it was done. Bless you.
Thank you.
Who else? I'll put Johnny in there.
Johnny.
That was my new, not that new age.
Another NBA player. There you go. So
and that's not even just. I'm just naming them.
I know you are. I'm just saying this is good. This makes sense.
And then I'll go 4A and 4B with Max and Marquise. I'll just go there. Like they were so good, man.
All right.
They were so good. So
state champion. You can't. And very good pro careers after.
You probably have to go to 10. You only gave me 4.
It. Stop. That's it. So I'm my 4.
So yeah, let's hear your 4. Let's hear your 4.
And so I wasn't around the basketball scene really until 2013-14.
Okay.
When I started like actually paying attention to the Valley basketball.
So yours would be different than mine.
I was training kids, but I was just training kids and training pros. I was in. Yeah. See, mine. I have to go. Johnny is on mine.
Yeah. Shout out to Core Prep.
Yeah. Shout out to Core Prep, of course. And just 3 years.
Yeah.
He did it in 3 years and shook to Kentucky. You know.
Yeah.
DeAnthony Melton.
DeAnthony was good too. Man.
DeAnthony from
defensively.
He did everything, and and he waited too.
Well, the one thing about DeAnthony, man, that people don't. He wasn't super skilled offensively, but he was efficient.
Yes.
He was super efficient.
He knew his work.
He knew he didn't do more than he was supposed to be doing.
He still does it in the league
He
today.
never took bad shots. He let the game come to him, and he was a stud defensively. And people are like, oh, Deion, I don't know. Like, he wasn't, you wouldn't say pro. I personally wouldn't have said pro. But he willed his way to the league. Shout out to Jay Hart for recruiting him when people probably didn't think he was recruitable. Wow. And Jay went and got him. And was like, nah, this dude can play. Yep. I don't care what you guys say.
The man barely played his sophomore year and still got drafted. Like, just that, I just remember watching some of his games.
And even at Crespi, he wasn't like freshman and sophomore year, he wasn't the guy.
Right.
He junior, senior year, he really developed, and Russell White did a great job developing him as he did with a lot of his players, and really just got him to the next level. But he waited. He's another kid that waited, like, I'm gonna wait my time. Yes. And went junior, senior year. Yep. And he didn't quit. He didn't transfer. He stayed the course.
That's it.
And he ended up coming on the other side of it. So, yeah. Anyway, go back to your four.
I got Johnny, DeAnthony. Man. Who was it?
Man, Shaq was a 2-time MVP.
I'm aware. No, there's some people who lit me up. I'm actually, you know what's crazy?
It's tough.
I might have to go B. Witt, though.
B. Witt?
Because when I was coaching in the thick of it and seeing him up close, he gave us 40.
Against Heritage?
He gave us 40. Yeah. Sky had 38, 36.
Oh, yeah.
B. Witt had 40.
In that championship game. Yeah.
Man, and he, like you said, nobody could stay in front of him.
He was good.
Man, he just stuck to the
business. He made the game easy. Remember that game he was like, why are you sitting down? Remember that game when he was like, why are you sitting down? I was like, he's doing everything. I don't have to do anything today. I got the day off because he was so skilled offensively. I mean, it's not a coincidence that he's on the cover of Montana's program guide right now. Montana, like, just killing it. He's the guy. So
for me, B. Witt. And then the
Some
last
of my guys, Alemany guys, don't be mad that I didn't name y'all. I love y'all.
You already did a whole different mountain for them, man. I got to think. There was one that went through my head and left. I'm trying to think of the school. Who was it? It went through my head. Dang it.
Man, y'all don't even know Brandon Robnett. That's when I was a JV coach. He was at Alemany, one of the best point guards in Alemany. Theo Edwards, who's now the freaking head volleyball coach. Now, don't start
naming people to be
nice,
sorry,
man. I just started thinking. Forgot about Theo. Shout out to CSUN men's volleyball. He's the head coach of CSUN men's volleyball. He was one of the first big dudes in Alemany. Man. I don't even want to. You should put me on the spot.
Respect. That's all good.
I love all y'all, man.
Respect. Man, who's my fourth? Man.
So you have DeAnthony.
Johnny. B. Witt. And who was it? There was somebody.
This is 13
who gave buckets. Was it somebody at Harvard Westlake? Man. Oh, that's who it was. Zaire Williams at Notre Dame. Zaire Williams at Notre Dame.
Include him. The only reason I didn't include him because
he left his senior year.
But he was
good.
His development from a freshman to a junior was unreal.
Crazy, man. Crazy.
I remember we played at Notre Dame his junior year, and he made one move the first play of the game. He ripped low, got to the baseline, and what would usually be a high school layup, he turned it over, and I looked at my assistant coach. I said, "That's what they look like."
Yep.
Like
I saw him at Heritage during Fall League one day, and it was just like,
he was nasty.
People were telling me like, "Yo, he's it."
Yeah.
And he was just pulling up at the elbow.
Yeah, he was
raising up over everybody. It was so easy.
I was so happy when he left. I was like, yes. Shout out to Zaire. I was like, I ain't got to worry about him. He was a defensive problem.
Yes.
Because he was 6'7", 6'8". Like he'll pull up on the little guys and go to work on the big guys. So he was a matchup nightmare. You couldn't zone him because he shoots it so well, and he was unselfish.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
So that's my 4 for the Mission League.
That's a good
during your tenure of coaching, because there's some young
now
cats in there now, man.
Yeah, I get a chance to watch every once in a while, and these kids can play.
It's real in there.
These kids are super skilled.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And now we're going to go to this time in our show. Where were you when? We're going to go back to your state championship year 2012, man. Just tell us about that experience, winning a state championship with those guys that you won it with.
Yeah.
And just taking a school that never done it before, right? This is the first one in history, and just your whole experience with that.
Man, it was a journey, and I don't do too much look back because I'm always pressing forward. But I do appreciate that time there because it was special. It was a special time in my life. We only had 2 kids at the time, which is crazy. My son was 3. Yeah, born in 2009. He was 3, and my youngest one was like 9 months. And it was a special time because we had 4 goals. We wanted to win a tournament. We wanted to win a Mission League championship. We wanted to win a CIF championship. We wanted to win a state championship. Those are 4 goals. So we had a healthy obsession towards those goals. I think that's what's key. And one of my business mentors talks to me about it all the time, is having a healthy obsession. We look at obsession as bad, but we were laser focused on getting there. Yeah. And that really, I think, set us apart because everything was towards that. Everything, when we set our goals in the beginning of the year, we went over what's called a SWOT analysis in business: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and really just went down what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, where we have an opportunity to get better, and what threatens us from not getting to our goal, right? And running that SWOT analysis was huge for us, and they just, day after day, they just got after it, and they held each other accountable. So it's great being on the outside looking in on that. We got a whole documentary that we get to look back on every once in a while. You pop it in, but really just being in that space and loving every second of it. Even the trip to the state championship, the being in the arena, just trying to soak it all in. It's a special place, man, and we didn't get back there, so it made it even more special because it's hard.
Yes.
It's very difficult to get up there, and
you also made like 6 open divisions, and which is great. That's an honor in itself, man.
Yeah,
you should have a
I think that's
under
recognized, man. Even these days, to get to the open division, you should get a banner. you should at least have some years.
Yes.
A banner that shows your years, because you're one of the best teams in the state. Forget SoCal, because I think it's the state. The Southern California Open Division is one of the better teams in the state. I mean, look what happened this year with the teams that won Open Division and Division I state. They came from the Mission League, right? It just shows the power of our league, but not only that, the Open Division power. Yeah. But going back to that state championship, it was just a great time to see all the hard work come to a culmination, and a lot of good people, from team moms to parents to administration. I had Frank Ferry was our principal, Dave Erbach was my AD, and we couldn't have did it without those guys. Orby Harry was my athletic secretary. So many people we had an athletic counselor. We had so many people that came together on one accord to get that job done. It wasn't just the coaching staff and the players. It was Alemany High School community that all came together and did everything we could to make sure that we got to that space, from buses to making sure we have the right gear. We have all the different things that go into it. It's not just, when you win a state championship, man, it's not just the coaches and the players. It's a community of people that help you get there and clear the way, that allowed us to coach.
That's why organizations get rings, right? The whole organization.
100%. Yeah. Yep. And we did it all the way down to the managers, to the DJ, to shout out to DJ Malski. We everyone help create that atmosphere of winning. Yeah. It was good.
All right, and it's the last segment of our show, Flip the Script. You're the interviewer now.
Oh, yeah.
2 questions.
So we're here live, Elevate Your Game. This is Tray Meeks, your co-host for the day, for the minute. So I got Mr. Todd Wilson here today, and we're going to ask him a couple of questions. So first off, Todd, let me ask you, what made you start this podcast? Like, what was the reason for doing it? What inspired you to start Elevate Your Game?
What inspired me to start Elevate Your Game was the opportunity to gain knowledge and share knowledge. I think in our basketball community in Southern California, it feels distant when there's a lot of personal relationships that we have with each other, but there's nothing that brings the community together to give the parents and the kids who this whole thing is about the information they need to be successful with their student athlete. There's a lot of bad information out there, bad trainers, bad coaches, I call it like it is, bad people in basketball who are giving information who have not done it before, who have not won on the highest level. And so I wanted to bring people in and share that, like, I'm not your competitor. I compete against myself to be great and to develop people. I want us all to share. Like, whatever you have, your story, your journey is shareable for somebody to learn from it and share that information to bring us all together. And two, is because I saw a lot of suckers out there sharing their information that was weak. And I'm like, if they got weak information, I know I could give out good information. And they got a lot of followers and people listening to what they're saying.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a truth serum. Like, hey, let's word on the street. If y'all watch the show Martin, I want to be the word on the street for basketball with some respect, right? I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. I'm not going to, degrade anybody. But we're going to talk about the real issues in this sport. And we're going to bring people in to give you real education on what really makes you successful and not all the other stuff.
Yeah. Okay. And you I know this show is it's going to be a pillar. It's already a pillar in the basketball community in SoCal. I think it's going to go beyond that, right? My next question is, talk about the role talk about the importance that your wife plays in your basketball career as a coach. And now you're still in basketball. So you're moving from you went from high school coach to developer, and core prep is in itself a beast. But really talk about how Ashley, shout out to Ashley, makes this thing go and how she helps you get to the next level and be the best version of yourself.
She makes me a better man overall. Like, she gives me the peace and the confidence to know that I can do whatever I put my mind to. And so her support for me, she actually hates basketball. It's an interesting question because she definitely does. She's the fuel because she doesn't like basketball. Like, she doesn't like going to games, especially ones I coach, because it gives her anxiety. And she's just not a fan. She's a gamer. This is what she does. And I think that's actually what makes us so special is that we have our own things that we deal with, and we allow each other to be ourselves in those roles. So that, and then she just supports, she prays and she gives her wisdom. She's a very, very, very intelligent woman, and her wisdom goes beyond anyone. Like, she's the last word. Like, hey, should I do this? She says yes or no. I'm listening to my wife because she has the best discernment. She knows who I am. And she don't like bad people is the best way to say it. Because she going like, I don't like them. They're not here for you. We're not doing that. And so she just gives me, discernment, guidance, and peace. I have peace in what I do because she believes in me. Whatever I put my mind to, she's like, I got you. Go ahead. And she just takes care of home. Like, it's been a blessing. Early in our relationship, she was the breadwinner for a little bit, to be honest. And she allowed me. I'm like, hey, I'm stepping into this space where it's new, and thank God it took off the way it did. But she supported me through that 1 year where I was getting my training business. So, I got fired from my job, my training business. She had a real job. She was paying the bills until I got this going, and now it's flipped where she's able to be a domestic engineer and stay at home and take care of the kids and just be my support.
And allowing you to fail.
Yeah, man.
Right? We talking about failing faster, right?
Yeah.
And I have two more questions for you.
Okay.
First one, what is it? We use the term, and my sister-in-law uses this term in her business, and I use it in my business as well. Is pull as we climb. What does that? What does that mean to you?
Pull as we climb. It means that as we're improving, developing, getting better, make sure that there's people that we're pulling up with us. And I think they have to understand what we're doing, that we're climbing and not trying to stay in the same place. So being able to take those that are, in your circle as we climb up the ladder, that we pull them along with us. They may be, 5 rungs down, they may be 10, but as long as they're growing and moving with us, then that's what we should be doing.
Yeah, that's good. And then the last question is, talk about how you created, how this works. So people don't understand, podcasting is not a one-man job. You're the front, right? You're the face. But talk about the who helps you make this thing go, and how she and other people help you get it done. Talk about that, because a lot of times people behind the camera don't get the dues, the props and things like that. So I'm always wanting to make sure people get their due, and they may not know how Elevate Your Game gets to where it is, but it's not just Todd Wilson. Would I be correct?
Oh no, it's not me at all. She calls me the talent, and her name's Karina.
Shout out to Karina.
Shout out to Karina. She'll put a picture of herself or something in the video.
No, she won't.
Listen, Karina was a godsend, because I've been wanting to do this, and she just said yes. Like, I told her the idea, let's do it. Equipment, editing, videoing, structure, all the creative stuff. Everything you see is from Karina, by Karina. She is a family friend. Her and my wife are friends, and we know each other from church from a long time ago. And she, like you said, man, the what you just said is pull as we climb. That's what she's doing. So she's had, because of the energy and effort she's put into this, many opportunities have come really, really quick for her.
I'm sure they're just getting started.
Y'all can reach out to her if you guys want.
We're not taking her from here, though. Don't
Don't
pay her too much.
I'm not even worried about that. I'm not worried about that, because that's who she is. Her character is. She's committed to what she's doing, but the price is going up too. And so if you come correct, because as you guys can see, she produces an amazing show.
Yes, she does.
And she does it without, like, she loves this. She literally, this is her, one of her passions. So thank you, Karina. Shout out always.
Boom.
Meeks, thank you for highlighting her.
Yeah,
and,
man. It's good to get the people that they don't know really make the magic happen, right?
For sure.
So that's all the questions I have, man. Thanks for letting me co-host this show for 2 minutes.
Absolutely, man. So we got a 24-second shot clock. You can speak into your camera there.
Oh.
Let the people know how they could get in touch with you, and
24 seconds.
24 seconds. And so
do I get a dry erase marker? No, I'm kidding.
Mark the whole wall up. 24-second shot clock of what you do, how they could get in contact with you, and the importance, even what you're doing now with financial education, financial consulting. So
I can be found at Tray Meeks on Instagram. If there's any need for financial education, just inspiration and figuring out how to build long-term wealth and save for the next generation, and making sure you're properly protected and things of that nature, you can definitely give me a call. You can send me a direct message on Instagram at Tray Meeks, TrayMeeks. And shout out to Todd. He's one of my good friends anyway. So if you want to contact him directly to get in touch with me, we'll be definitely excited to help you out, do a needs analysis for you, show you your forecasting, where you should be, where you're going, and how you can get there. So shout out to him for allowing me to have this platform. But definitely reach out to me. We do everything complimentary, so it's not a charge for anything that we do. We just want to help people grow financially.
Awesome, man. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being on the show,
Boom,
my
boom.
brother.
Yes, my dude.
We'll see you guys
Appreciate
next
you.
time. Peace.
Elevate your game.